Okay, good evening. It's August 5th, and I haven't been for a few weeks. I was trying to get over some issues, and I can happily say that I have had a nice final transition away from what was the Association of Bluegrass Broadcasters. And I hope to move forward in a more positive manner. My current bluegrass hangout is a group called Putting Some Grass in It, run by artist Dave Adkins. It's a public group on Facebook, so most people can get in, but we can disallow anything we feel uncomfortable with. Okay. It has been another crazy summer. I finally got my swim in at the dam today. As usual, things happen, but the weather has been crazy. Every time you turn around, there's rain. I think we have had rain every Sunday since the end of June. And we had another shower tonight after I got back. I also can't believe the kids down south are starting school this week. I guess I feel bad because where I'm from always has, and fortunately still is, some people actually start after Labor Day. Granted, their school year goes into the 10th of June sometimes, but my feelings on that is too many in-service days. I hate Common Core, even though I've never had to been exposed to it as a parent or a student, and all these things. I can't see anything wrong with the way we were taught versus what our children should be taught. And along those lines, I think practically anybody can get any school district can arrange it, start the day after Labor Day, cut those weeks in the middle of the year down to a few days, and you can get them out by Memorial Day. When you have to make up for those snow days, make them longer, or steal a Saturday as early as possible. Okay, enough of that. Back to chat here. Music continues to be amazing. One big thing I want to note, it only happened for 1 week, but the week of July 20th, no, actually I think it's the week of July 29th on their charts, Billboard had 3 albums from Mountain Home Music in their top 15. Flat Lonesome was at 5, Doyle Lawson's gospel album was at 10, and Balsam Range 5 was at 15. Now what you got to consider is Billboard is not exactly akin to bluegrass music. Billboard takes is a general thing, and whoever happens to report in the bluegrass, that's what gets thrown in. So you're going to look at their charts, and you're going to see the things, you're going to see a number of acts that are on the edge of bluegrass, or in artists who jumped over from other things. In other words, Steve Martin's album Lafidi Bacall is still on there after 7 months. So you take all that consideration and the fact that this label has put 3 albums in the top 15. It's amazing. And I would like to thank a few DJs and some of the main people at Mountain Fever and artist Dave Adkins for sticking by me the last few weeks. It wasn't pretty the way I was put down. And they stood by me for about 3 or 4 days when I kept ranting and ranting, saying, can I do something? Whatever. And I hope that they will continue to keep me in focus, and I will try to keep them in focus. I got a lot of hugging and backslapping and thank yous to do when I get to IBMA. Other things I'm trying to think what I'm reading about. Article on music needs to adjust the way television has. They think music ought to go the route like television went down to nothing. It went down to so many channels, so many choices. So to get people out of that rut, some networks came up with interesting series to keep you interested. And they run them on their station, and they promptly get them on the services so that if you can't see them when they're broadcast, you can tape them or find them rather quickly on Hulu, Amazon Prime, or whatever. So, but along those lines, music is not really changing right now for the good. It was a lot of people think that the best sound quality is on vinyl, and vinyl and shellac were the only game in the book up until the mid-60s. 8-tracks and cassettes came along, so you could listen in the car versus turning in your radio station. And after that came CDs, and they were a step up from the tapes, but they never quite got the quality of vinyl. And nowadays, most people who are buying things are downloading tracks or simply listening to sources that don't pay royalties. So even if you are buying hard copies of music, it'll never be the quality it was many years ago. And I think that's why vinyl is starting to make a comeback. On the radio side, quality is not our best issue. I run a station on Live 365. I convert everything to MP3. When it's ready for broadcast, it's down at 144 megahertz. When I record PSAs, and when I receive a lot of it, it's at the broadcast standard of 300 and some. And I have to cut it down. If it's below 144, I can't even use it because it has to be a minimum. So, what can I do to convince you to listen to me when you can go out and find the music yourself without the commercials? Or, are willing to look me up. I'm trying the best I can. I can say that Live 365 does pay royalties. I used to think it was more than it probably actually is, judging from some charts I've seen. But I would rather have you come in here and check something out, see what I'm doing, versus going to Spotify and Pandora, which literally pay nothing. As far as YouTube is concerned, I'm guilty a little bit there. I go once in a while to see a concert track. If I want a reference to something way back, or to check out an artist, I will go to YouTube. Last week, one of my friends, he's like me, he has a bar in his mind, and sometimes he does what he calls loading the jukebox. And he put a couple tracks on reference to summer. He put on the one from War and Neil Diamond's Brother Loves Traveling Salvation. So I got in there and went and added to his list Summer in the City from the Lovin' Spoonful and Those Lazy, Hazy, Crazy Days of Summer from Nat King Cole. And I'm wondering how many people might have gone to somewhere to check out some Jim Reeves tracks last week. I will say that's been one of my better efforts lately. I wanted to commemorate it when it happened. I put it together like literally the last couple hours before, and I made it by about 10 minutes. And I ended up with 8 or 9 songs by or connected to Jim Reeves. 2 were by. A quick introduction to that, and then another quick introduction, and about 6 songs from Sun Records connected to Sam Phillips, whose passing was also around that time. And I think I did it right by, rather than making a separate program, I tagged it on to the beginning of my regular programming. Had it been a separate program, it could have only been an hour in length. I didn't have quite that. And I could have only had 1 song per artist. By doing it the other way, I was able to put another Jim Reeves track in. Some of those rules are crazy for internet broadcasters. Yes, I am going to be watching for whatever might come up next month if any of the rules get changed. I'm hoping it doesn't affect what I do. I have a deal through them that I get a discount on my professional status by sharing with a few people. But we're going to have to see what happens as far as who pays what. I will say I do agree that terrestrial radio could pay a little more to play music. I have a lot of artists and writers friends who are not getting paid well and deserve it. But I also got to look at the fact that when the time comes, and if those stations are starting to be charged royalties, how many music stations will we have left in that format? Why are you going to pay X amount to run 15 songs when you can probably pay a third of that to run something live or a talk show? We've come a long way from the 1930s and 40s when radio was basically live. And it really wasn't until after World War II around World War II, that they started playing records to fill up the space between other programming. And it was around the 70s that radio went back to being more of an entertainment than public service. By then, public service had gone to TV. I personally think that as far as radio is concerned, the public service aspect never comes in unless there is a major emergency. It's strictly an entertainment medium. Of course, I'm an entertainment medium too, so. Okay, let's get a little lighter here. Next Wednesday is the announcement of the finalists for the IBMA Awards and the announcements for the newest members into the IBMA Hall of Fame. I have no idea who they're going to come up with this year. The last four have been pretty fantastic. Last year's Tony Rice speech was probably the highlight of many IBMAs before and after. Doyle Lawson in 2012. Del McCoury in 2011. And Louise Scruggs in 2010. As far as the awards are concerned, I'm not one that follows the instrumentalist like I should. I don't go to enough festivals and so forth to know that many of them personally. I have met a few that stand out, but in the general categories, I always have that argument about who should and should not qualify for upcoming new artists. By my thoughts, it shouldn't be anybody that's been in it more than 3 years. Now they have another emerging artist category, which throws more confusion into it. Although for the most part, I've been pretty happy with what they've come up with for emerging artists over the years. Last year was Della Mae, but I didn't think there were that many standouts. And like I've said many times, in 2012, the second half of the awards, I was anything but reverent at the Ryman. And as far as New Artist Award, I was so happy for Joe Mullins. I'd ended up at their table that day at the early awards. I talked to them in the exhibit area later. So I was really excited to see them a few weeks ago. As well as Junior Sisk. I gotta thank Ryan Frankenhauser for a great festival. This is the second year it has been in Center County. They had one for about 6 years at a park over in Mifflin County, and they outgrew it. And fortunately, Center County, the Grange Fair people said, fine. They got a grant from the State Arts Council. Tickets are fairly reasonable. If you buy them ahead and you go all 4 days, it's like $10 a day. No, about $12 a day. I bought my ticket ahead, but I only went 2 days. And they certainly have the space for the campers, the workshops, and all that. And it's very traditional. And there's much, and the freedom to get around and interact with people is very open. And I hope it can stay that way. I'm not exactly that impressed with what has happened to Romp and a couple other festivals. When you get so big that to keep it up and so forth, you're bringing in acts that are not bluegrass, that's a turn off. And when it gets so bad that you have to put fences up in front of the stage, and when you're sitting there, you can't see over the people standing, that defeats it. People think bluegrass might be the calm aspect of country and so forth, and it is generally an older crowd. You do want to bring young people in there, let them play their instruments and all that, but take it to a point and leave it. Don't take it to the point where you can't sit down and enjoy an evening performance. If you're going to be that big, do double performances so that the people that can tolerate it can come in the afternoon, and take the evenings to do whatever. We loved those first few years at Romp. But I like a festival where I can socialize. And I think the artists do too. I don't know how many people have seen the posts lately or keep up with David Patterson, but he's about ready to give up on festivals completely. He doesn't want to roll in, do one performance and get off, and have to do all those workshops and deal with people that are, like I said, a little more liberal. I think people know that I broadcast other than bluegrass. I broadcast Western swing, honky tonk, and so forth. But for the most part, if I'm at an event associated with bluegrass, I'm there for bluegrass. I'm not happy with some things from the IBMA, obviously. But they're the main game in town, and I'm willing to chip in to stay on the map. And they appreciate the fact that I do put bluegrass in with my other stuff. But along those lines, I've seen Susie Boggess and I've seen the Queeby sisters at IBMA events. Those are the only times I've seen those acts. It's the only way I would have seen them. And I can probably say the same thing about Emmylou Harris at Romp. But under normal circumstances, I would rather see the Queeby sisters at the Broken Spoke, or if they're still willing to play for that small of a crowd, maybe down at Fred Gills in Austin, or any of the Texas music halls. And it comes to Susie Boggess and Leanne Womack, maybe a club setting, either Nashville or Austin. But if I'm going to a bluegrass festival or an evening set with multiple acts that's advertised as bluegrass, I want bluegrass. So I'm fortunate I can make up for that by keeping my traditional and regular bluegrass hours tight and being a little more liberal with the stuff on my regular playlist. And certainly putting enough of it in my gospel list. I don't think I'd be able to run a 2-hour gospel show if it weren't for bluegrass. Okay. As far as my website and so forth, GoDaddy let me down quite a bit. So the one on Squarespace is my current site. I need to discipline myself to get down here a little more and work on it. It has my top 20s back to mid-June. I lost the previous ones. It has my mid-year top 20, my playlist ads, and a few pictures from Nashville and the Bluegrass Festival. I still have a few to add. Maybe I'll get down here and find some time to work when I'm trying to stay out of the way from my brother while he's here. Okay. I've been on here about a half hour. My Western Swing Hour is coming up, and I'd like to enjoy it. After that, new Bluegrass Hour, including some brand new tracks from Junior Sisk, as well as Crow Lawson and let's see here. Yeah, Crow Lawson and Williams. I probably won't have much to talk about the next few days. I may come in maybe next Wednesday or Thursday with my thoughts on the IBMA award, on the IBMA finals. But otherwise, I'm hanging in. Be sure and check us out at www.live365.com/stations/BusGalJan. And think about ponying up a few dollars and committing yourself a few hours. Get the ad-free broadcast. We appreciate it to help with the expenses. Or get in touch with me about using PayPal or whatever. We do accept donations. Meanwhile, enjoy getting the kids back to school, or enjoy your last month of summer, and don't forget the music. And don't forget to get out there and support live music in a responsible manner. At this time, we're going to shut it off at 9:50. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.